Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl. I'm a recovery coach here at Cap Recovery Center. This is our Freedom Fridays meeting today. The article I have here is Seven Types of Freedom in Addiction Recovery. And it says here addiction is a trap that the addict is robbed of any real choices. He or she has to drink or use drugs. They have no freedom from their compulsions, obsessive thoughts, and repetitive behavior, which keep landing them in a tight spot. They are often confined in jails or hospitals. Getting clean and sober means experiencing freedom, to appreciate the value of their new way of life. Let us look at the seven types of freedom they gain or regain. I like how it talks about as addicts we visit jails and hospitals, right? And hopefully not death, right? So that's what we talk about: jails and institutions and death. And so it's the one thing I do seek in recovery is freedom. Freedom from our self-made prisons, um, because you can be free, physically free, but still locked and loaded and bounded by our thoughts. So the one thing I do seek is freedom from self, definitely freedom from active addiction, but it's good to be free and not have no worries in life, and active addiction, that's all it was. I was always bounded by the drugs, or I was in jails, institutions, I was just confined in all types of stuff. So I wasn't no sense of freedom in my life, and that sucked. That didn't feel too good. So let's look at the seven ways of freedom. So freedom from hate. The alcoholic or addict usually becomes a package of resentments. In recovery, he or she learns to let go of the poisons by developing a measure of compassion and tolerance. He discovers that others to have problems and learns to forgive. He realizes that weakness is a universal human trait, which calls for support rather than hate. He also learns that most resentments were created in him by his own selfish or self-centered attitude and behaviors, not by any crucial intentions of others. Wow, that really hit me right there. Like the resentments that I came in with, right, into recovery with, is was all self-made. A lot of it was all made by me. Like things happen, people do things to you, people say things to you, things happen to you. That can cause some resentments, but I want to say a good 95% of my resentments was my own doing. I had to take a look at that in recovery. Why am I holding on to this? I did it. It just, insanity of active addiction. I'm gonna hurt you, but I gotta resent you for me hurting you. Like it just doesn't make sense, right? So I had to look at that. I had to uncover that stuff, and resentment is the only thing that does is hurt you, right? A lot of sometimes we have resentments, right, and against people, and they don't even know. Or it happened years and years ago, and people are moving on and don't even know nothing about it. But I'm holding this stuff in, and I got a resentment against you. The only thing it's been doing is making me sick. It's not making me spiritually growing or changing, holding on to these things. So I had to let go all resentments. And it changes. Well, not like totally let go, but through the process of recovery, I learned to deal with it a lot better, right? Because I can't help my emotions and feelings in the way I think sometimes. So our recovery teaches me to practice some principles and let things go. Don't be stuck in that. And number two is freedom from guilt. Guilt and shame become part of the alcoholic's and addict's life as personality in memorable, embracing, and dishonest situations and incidents generate an accumulated sense of guilt that begins to overshadow everything. He or she tries to hide this uncomfortable feeling by projecting a brave but false image of confidence and success. In the process of addiction recovery, he or she makes amends to those he has harmed and learns to live a comparative guilt-free life. Getting over an uncomfortable sense of shame, recovering persons begin to live comfortably, free from the constraints of guilt and low self-worth. Yeah, because we come in here with some guilt and shame, and you know, and that takes time also to let go of that. And it talks about guilt that begins to overshadow everything. So you're living life in recovery and stuff like that, but you're still holding on to this guilt, and it's like towering over you, you know. And it brings up more negative emotions and feelings. When we think about certain situations or things we've done or things we've been through, it can stir up this guilt and these negative feelings and emotions. All right. So, like I talked about earlier, like recovery has taught me to deal with these things in a healthy manner, healthy communication, talking with a sponsor, talking with a pastor, talking to a recovery coach, my support group. So there's many pathways we can deal with guilt. And so we can let these emotion feelings go. We don't have to stay stuck in that. You know, if we stay stuck in the guilt and the shame and everything else that comes along with it, that can lead us back to using. We're trying to get freedom from all that stuff. We can't come in recovery and hold on to that, and which we do. We come in with it and we work on ourselves to let that stuff go. That's the main part. We can't change it. It's already done. Whatever what I've done and what happened to me or whatever the case may be. So recovery teaches me to, move forward in life and deal with these things in a healthy way. So it talks about freedom from want. Number 3. It's the experience of most persons that they become more prosperous after getting clean and sober. In recovery, some experience the financial success that is beyond their expectations. During active addiction, however, a typical addict is continually running after economic accomplishment but failing even persons with considerable talent are not consistent or consistent. I don't know that word. I'm sorry. Enough to turn their attitudes into paychecks or perks. They lose jobs and the confidence of their associates due to their inconsistent or dishonest behaviors. They easily slip into debt. While financial success may take time to achieve in recovery, the fear of economic insecurity fades away, and this is a wonderful freedom that comes from sobriety. So it says sober people often say, "Thank God I'm sober." They might as well add, "Thank God I'm free." So it touches a little bit of financial stuff that we get back in recovery. And so a little bit about me, like I didn't have financial stability when I was out there using, right? I didn't have no type of money, no cars, no houses, I nothing of my belongings of birth. So like I gained everything I have today through the process of recovery. It's not my aim in life in my aim in recovery, but that if you stick around and stay in position, you do gain these things. It's nice to have nice things, but that's not my goal. Recovery stays first. That's my purpose is recovery, and things come and go. Financial stuff. It's nice to have, but like if I use, right, that stuff is gone. So I have to keep recovery first, and the gifts of recovery keep on flowing in. It says freedom from fear. Alcoholics and addicts suffer from the significant fear of not getting their substance, of getting caught, people discovering their real personalities, fear of the future, and so on. They continue their drinking and using consciously or unconsciously is in a bid to manage these anxieties. In recovery, their worries get migrated and they now have the tools to manage their fears. Faith replaces fear. It's a process, but one that brings real joy and freedom in their lives. Yeah, it talks a little bit of the fear of like not getting our substance, because I know for me, like if I didn't get my substance, I was angry, I was resentful, frustrated, I was sick, physically sick. And that goes with drugs and alcohol. If you don't have your, think about it, we become physically dependent on, right? So if we don't have it, we're not too good. We're not good at all. And so the fear of not getting that, that can stir up a lot of depression, anxiety, a lot of worry, and because that's something we do on a daily basis. We use drugs and alcohol on a daily basis, and if we don't have that, then we're stuck with self, right? We're stuck with self, with our emotions and feelings. Because a lot of times we, just speaking on me, that I use drugs and alcohol to not feel. I didn't want to feel or deal with things that was going on in the world and the things that I was doing. I used it as a coping skill, which drove me deeper and deeper in active addiction. So it was just like this vicious circle of me using and doing this and causing pain and suffering to others. And I was using more and more and more. The next one is freedom from self. One of the most significant traits of an addict is his or her self-centeredness. He or she will try and manipulate people and situations to get what they want. He is obsessed with himself or herself and what they perceive as their well-being. However, when sober, they are often considered commendable acts of altruism and compassion. They are finally released from the bondage of self and go beyond their selfish desires to connect with others. They learn to respect themselves by respecting others. In service, they find salvation. What I found from freedom from self is like helping others, right? Giving back, getting out of myself, because I am selfish, self-centered, right? As addicts and alcoholics, we're selfish, we're self-centered. So the best way to find freedom from myself is to help others. That's the best way I can explain that. I like helping people out, and I don't ask for anything in return. That's what we do in recovery. Like we help one another and not expecting something back. Because it was freely given to me, and I'll be selfish if I don't give back, It says freedom from frustrations. While drinking and using, the addict expects all things to go his or her way. Of course, this is an unrealistic expectation and the results in frustration. This gives a handy excuse to blame, get angry, and ultimately justify the drinking and drugging in recovery. In recovery, the person begins to build patience. He begins to realize that everything takes time and effort. Projects sometimes fail. Results are not always expected or desired. With this realization comes from freedom from impatient anger and frustration. It takes time to work in this area, but absence slowly teaches the individual the value of taking it easy and accepting the results. Wherever they may be, sobriety may not feel free to act from all his or her frustrations, but they shall become manageable. So we're talking about freedom from frustrations. That's daily. I can get frustrated on a daily basis, but I can't stay stuck in that. I can't say I'm always going to not feel frustrated. Yes, unrealistic. But what do I do when I do get frustrated? Do I pray? Do I call my sponsor? Do I call recovering addicts? Um, do I practice principles, patience, and tolerance? So there, like, I can't act the way I used to, right? I can't put the drugs and alcohol down and think I can get recovery and act the same way and do the same things I did before. I had to change. So when I get frustrated, right, I can pray, take a deep breath, call somebody, instead of reacting and acting out and going back using or causing because like we can do hurt me, I'll hurt you, that tit for tat kind of deal, as my sponsor says. That never works out, so recovery is about changing our old behaviors, trying to change the way we think, um, and apply more principles today. You know, says number 7, freedom from despair. With recovery comes hope, the hope of a new life, the hope of achieving goals, fulfilling potential, and experience happiness. That's one thing I always wanted to have is happiness, right? My happiness when active addiction associated with drugs and alcohol or what I can get, it was always about me, me, me. Um, so experiencing happiness like truly without drugs and alcohol and living life, I didn't think was possible. I didn't think it was possible for me because I was thinking about it. I was years and years of using drugs and alcohol, and would come using drugs and alcohol, we're causing more pain and suffering to ourselves and everybody around us. So there wasn't no true happiness. I didn't think I can achieve that. Right? I didn't think I can have fun in recovery because I was always consumed with some type of substance. So I'm here to tell you, you can have fun. You can be happy in recovery. It just matters how much you want it and how much work you put in, right? With renewed self-worth and confidence, the addict goes ahead, free from the deliberating despair that ruled his days during addiction. It says, hope is a powerful element that shines through the dark clouds over an addict's life. This new freedom is of a spiritual dimension, giving purpose and meaning to his or her life. Oh, that is great. So talk about a little bit of hope, freedom from despair. So like despair, I go to is like hopelessness, right? I was truly in despair. I was hopeless, right? I didn't know from left from right. I was desperate. We talk about recovery, the gift of desperation, um, and a lot of it was myself doing, right? So I was digging my hole deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper. These self-made prisons I made, these lies I told myself, the things I was doing. So it was a little bit of everything that kept me in active addiction, right? It kept me using. And it was hard to break that. It really was. Um, it was tough. I see you, Juan. What's going on, Juan? So like, I had to really do something different this time, and like that little glimpse of hope I had, it grew over time. Um, but that's when like I got in recovery. I seen other people being happy and living full lives, and another thing is that they can relate to me and I can relate to them. Like I thought I was the worst of the worst, and um, I was, I always put myself on the bottom of things. I was never better than, right? I was always less than everybody else. I didn't see my self worth. Um, I didn't see anything good for me in my life. I didn't see a purpose. Um, Nothing. You know what I mean? I was so deep in addiction and the lifestyle that I couldn't see on the other side. Until I really put the substance down. Because that's another thing. Like I always thought I can use something I couldn't see my life without any type of substance. There had to be something. To be completely absent from drugs and alcohol, I didn't think was possible. And that's normal because that's what I was used to. I was used to drugs and alcohol. That's all my life was about. So to see my life a different way, it was scary. It talks about freedom from fear. That I was feared up is who I was going to become in recovery. Because as crazy as it sounds, it was more comfortable staying in the chaos in the drug addiction to see myself free from active addiction. Right? It was easier to stay in the midst of the chaos than seeing myself freedom from active addiction. So it was, I was not too right in the head, right? Like most of us are. But when I got in recovery, I seen other people living life and doing things in life that and they're just like me. People were sharing and I can relate and they can relate to me. And I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. You're just I would hear stories just worse than mine, right? And my stories were worse than others. But that's, our common bond was, drugs and alcohol and the stuff that we're doing. But um, we can change, right? We have a choice today. We can live life in recovery and have nice things, and that's all through, other recovering addicts that helped me out. That's one of what it talks about the freedom. That's one of my aims in life is having freedom from self. Freedom from that desire to use. So like I can not look over, I can walk down the street and not look over my back. I don't have to worry that am I going to go to jail or am I going to get robbed or I owe somebody money. So there was always something going on in my life that I was feared up about. And today like I don't have to live that way. Um, but that was our Freedom Fridays meeting for the day. My name is Carl. I'm recovery coach here at Capital Recovery Center. Until next time, we'll see you later.